What is up guys, it is Simba here and welcome back to another F125 video on the channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the settings that I am using on the F1 game. If you haven't seen the controllers settings video that has been on my channel, make sure you go check that one out before you see this one, because the controller settings are a completely different entity compared to the settings I'm about to show you on this video. So if you guys find this one useful or you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit the like button, get subscribed for more F125 content, and without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the settings and let's get straight into the video. So here we are back again on the F125 game, and the first thing we're going to be going through is the settings. So if I can just find it here, there we go. So I can't quite see the bottom left of my screen because of where I've placed the camera, but let's get straight into it then. So assists, I'm running on Elite. I run no assist. I've been doing so since F122, so we won't be really needing any assists. You can obviously turn these on if you really need to, like braking assist or ABS, for example, or even the dynamic racing line. So you can turn these on if you really need to, but for me, I don't really think I need these. I've been practicing since F122. We won't be needing any settings here in this section. The on-screen display, this is something I'm going to be talking to you guys about a little bit later on, so stay tuned for that one. And anything else that we could go through. So mainly, here are the audio settings that I am using. I believe these are inspired by Duncan Hoffman, who made a settings video of his own. So master volume on 10, effects on 10, speech, I mean basically it's just the commentators and basically just Mark Priestley on the radio, isn't it? So we'll put that on 6, music on 3. So if I ever play the EA soundtrack, I might avoid getting copyrighted on Twitch, but I'll just keep the OST, and I'll keep it on 3. I don't really need it to be too high. The player car, obviously on 10, I want to be able to hear my own car while I'm driving, and then the other cars also on 10. This is basically for awareness of what's going on around you, so this basically helps you be wary of where the car is. If obviously another car is right next to you, it's going to be quite loud, so that'll basically help you with that. The voice chat volume on 4, I mean I don't really have this on anyway. And onto the onboard mix. Now this is basically the first part of the settings video where this is completely up to you. For me, I prefer driver, because when I switch over to broadcast and I'm on board with a car or I'm driving, I'll hear the ride height bottom out on the circuit, so you'll hear the car bottom out on the ground, and that might be up to you. I mean, you could do that if you want to hear that, but for me, I think that'll just be a major distraction while driving, so I'll turn this on to driver. So that's just a preference that I have on this game. It's completely up to you what you decide to do, and everything else, the mono mix isn't really needed, the relief filters isn't needed. The speaker type is TV speakers, and the voice engineer ducking is heavy, so it's just reducing the volume of other sounds if Jeff decides to give me a useful update, which he never really does, but I have my own engineers anyway giving me those updates. Alex Jake's commentator, but that's not really too important. So those are the audio settings, and I think that is basically everything I need to cover in this section. So I've gone over the assists, I've gone over the audio settings, so now let's talk about the on-screen display, which I'm going to show you guys in a little bit more detail. So here we are on time trial on the F1 game. So around I've just picked an Aston Martin around Bahrain, where you can see here that I'm actually quite a decent place on the leaderboard. Not too bad, 13th at the moment, but we'll just load this setup anyway, just because why not. I'm not going to do any laps around here, but the main thing I want to show you here on time trial is the on-screen display. So obviously cameras, that'll be shown at the end of the video without any commentary on it, but we're going to talk about the on-screen display here with this section of the video, because this part is quite important. So this is where most people can go wild in their own preferences as well. So on-screen display with the speedometer unit, I go miles an hour. That's just the thing I prefer. Degrees Celsius, because I'm from the UK. We obviously have degrees Celsius here. And the full track map is the first important thing I want to mention, because this allows me to see everything on track. So if, for example, if I'm on a qualifying out lap and I see a car just about to start a lap, I'll make sure I'll move out of the way at the first chance I get, just to make sure I'm not putting them off. This is also important in the race with strategies involved, especially on this game, because let's say you're racing a few cars in front of you, you've made an undercut, and you want to see where they are on track or when they're pitting, you'll get to see that in real time. So that's why that full track map is on. It's for track position in the racing, and it's for making sure that you are basically moving out of the way and not blocking anyone on a qualifying lap. The delta time obviously is on, that tells me if my lap is any good or it's absolutely terrible. Normally, if you guys have seen my league racing videos near the end of F1 24, you'll know that my qualifying laps were absolutely terrible. But I digress. The proximity hours will tell me where the positioning of the cars that are close behind me, so this is helpful for overtaking. So say I'm making an overtake on a DRS straight and we're still about side by side going into the first corner, the arrows will tell me if they're still looking for that move on the inside going into the corner. So that's basically what that is. The driver tags, I've basically tried to turn these off. No particular reason really, I just thought I'd give it a try for the opening game cycle. And also, the driver tags can get in the way of some apexes sometimes, so I've decided just to turn it off. And also, the information I can see that I'll show you later will show me who's in front of me anyway, so that's alright. The start lights obviously are going to be on. That'll tell me, you know, when the 5 lights are on and when they go out. Pretty self-explanatory stuff. The virtual rear view mirror, I don't really know why this is part of the game. I know some people might prefer it, but for me, I find it completely useless. I have a look back button, so I don't really think a rear view mirror is going to help me in any scenario, really. So now onto the permanent session timer. This basically tells me how much time is left in qualifying, and it's pretty important because normally if you have this off, it will only tell you when there's 5 minutes to go. So when this is off, you're basically guessing about how much time you've got left. So this is basically an important part in league racing because you want to time your runs properly in qualifying. You want to try and get as many laps as possible, and obviously the more laps you can get, the better chance you have of getting higher on the grid. So you want to turn this on to make sure that your timings are correct and make sure you don't run out of time before the end of the session if you want one final lap. And objective panel, I don't think I need this, so we've turned this off. But I want to mainly discuss the on-screen display customization because this is where the preferences really do kick in. And the main thing I want to talk to you guys about, if my controller wants to work. 1 second. There we go, I don't know what was happening there, we managed to sort that out. So basically you can see at the bottom left of your screen there are 3 filters. So you've got time trial, elimination, where I've changed absolutely nothing here because I don't think I'm going to be on this mode at all, race, and qualifying. So the main thing here I want to show you is time trial. So this is basically how I go about it. So the timing position, you've got the left notification here. I go for opacity at 100 so I can fully see it, but the scale is at 80. Now 80 is just my preference. Again, I've seen people go even lower, say about 65 if they really wanted to, but I'll just go with 80. That's what I'm accustomed to, it's what I will be able to see. It's basically just so I can see it properly, and that's basically the same thing with track position. Again, the default, I will say, is on 100, and you can see when I turn it up to 100, that looks pretty big, doesn't it? That's probably going to be pretty distracting with everything else going on in a qualifying session or a league race. So I turned this down again to 80, just making sure that I can see the information without being distracted from it, because the main objective here with the on-screen display is to have as much information as you possibly can, but you're able to digest it and process it in real time. So the lap counter again is on 80. That's you can see where I'm going here with 80. The mini map, I've actually moved this up a little bit because normally it's down here, down the left hand side, down the bottom left hand side of the screen. But I've moved this up because I'm trying to stream these races with a webcam. If you guys saw my TTC Austria race I streamed yesterday, I had a webcam involved in that stream, and it didn't go too well, but I digress. But the minimap has just been moved up a little bit so my webcam doesn't get in the way of the minimap. And again, the full track map will give me information I need during qualifying and the race, which I've already explained. Again, this is on 80, and when it comes to the timing pills, this is basically important for the race. So this allows me to see what my best lap is, what my previous lap is, and then in the race you want to try and get as close to your personal best as you can, because that's set on lap 2 or 3 depending if your first few laps are clean or not. So the best lap is what you want to be aiming for, and the previous lap will tell you if you're close to it or not, because you want to be consistent with race pace. The MFD, I've moved this down to 80% once again, and the main thing I want to discuss here is the F1 dial. Now, Lucas Blakely, I know he's been streaming a lot on this game on Twitch. He has this down at 50, and I can see why, because you can still see the ERS just in front of me here, and it's not distracting, because once again, the default on the on-screen displays is 100. And if you look at that, that is just way too big for me on my screen. So I could move it here. I used to have it here back on F1 2021 and F1 22, and then F1 23 I had it here, but actually since F1 24 I've just had it just above the halo here, and you can see that, to me, that's way too distracting. Obviously you can change this however you'd like, but 50 is the one for me, and we're just going to put that right there very nicely. Now, the main thing with the OSD, you want to make sure it's consistent with everything else, because it's very easy to load into practice session, for example, and have everything just on the default settings. So you want to make sure everything is consistent with the race. So, for example, the F1 dial here in the race is at 50, and it's also in the same position as time trial. We're just going to move that up just a little bit there now. Yeah, again, you can just move this however you want. I'll just move it here just for whatever, but that is basically the on-screen display, and again I might just change that for qualifying as well. Just scrolling through onto 50, we'll just move that up a little bit, and I can still be able to see what's going on. So now I'm going to give you guys just a quick rundown of the settings that we've changed, and you can see there, going into the final corner here in Bahrain, on the brakes down to 4th, I can still see the red counter here, so up to 6th, up to 7th, and up to 8th. I can still see my time trial, my lap 1, my lap counter, my personal best lap, and you can see the delta on the top right hand side of the screen as well. Down into turn 1 we go. Obviously that's a terrible corner, but you can see now the delta's just climbing and climbing because I've obviously slowed down. So it's still, you can see how I'm still able to see all the important information around me, whether I've got the DRS open or closed, as you can see there, or I can see the personal best that I'm aiming for in the first sector, or you can see the delta that is absolutely flying up now. I'm nearly 10 seconds down, and you can still see the minimap on the top left hand side of the screen, and the MFD just hit at the bottom right, which again will just help me change the brake bias of the differential if I really need to. But that is pretty much all the settings that I am running on this game. So I think that'll be a good way to wrap things up. And there you go, guys. Those are the settings I am using on the F1 25 game. I hope these are useful to you guys, and you can be free to change any of these if you really need to. And I'm going to leave you guys with the camera settings for the remainder of the video. I won't put any commentary on them. These are just my personal preference on how I'd like to have the cars looking with the TV pod camera. I will note that there are no TV pod offset cameras. Sorry, I don't use TV pod offset, so I don't think it'd be right for me to try and make good cameras with a camera saying I don't really use. So this is TV pod only. Be sure to let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this useful, and I'll leave you guys with the camera settings on screen coming up very shortly. But until then, take care, and I will see all of you in the next one.